The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome to today's Empathy Expansion Kit episode. In today's show, we're going to briefly explore how AI tools might support employee well-being by identifying stressors and facilitating emotional support mechanisms. I'm Stephen Skash here with Tulio Siragusa.
Hello.
So a study in April said 1 in 4 companies use AI to support HR work right now, but 76% of HR leaders believe they will be using AI solutions in the next 12 to 24 months. Now, a lot of this may be related to things like hiring and payroll, but we're in the cusp of this really weird spot here where all these AI tools are just about on top of us and coming online, and we're seeing some of this gathering data in the workplace here and analyzing different things. So what we kind of want to dive in here is the good side of this. There's obviously this dark side of this bad, ways these things can be used, this sort of dark mirror episode of, employment. We'll get into that maybe into a longer podcast, but we're talking about just the mentoring, the helping build love into your business. Can these tools help do some of that? Tulio, what are your thoughts here?
I think this is very exciting because if you really care about your people and your team, then you obviously want to find ways to be supportive, to be encouraging, and where appropriate, maybe lift them up when they're down. So how do you do that unless you have this continuous daily interaction, which could come across like trying to micromanage people? It's a difficult thing to balance. So it takes time and energy, and most of us don't know how to identify every little thing that's going on. So AI can really help tremendously. Look for things like sentiments or tonality, perhaps in email messages or even internal communication and things of that sort that could indicate that someone may be undergoing some stress or some challenges that is an opportunity to go and support them. And what I like about it is if everyone sort of opts into this, it becomes a way to have, someone, a co-pilot or a mentor or even a therapist, I guess, just supports you along the way. And it's private. So it's not like a boss or someone from HR is coming to me and saying, hey, I noticed you're a little stressed. It's more like the system saying, are you okay? How do you feel today? Maybe it's an emoji that someone types in and there's some supportive commentary that's provided. And it's totally personalized. That's what I like about AI. It can personalize it. So imagine you have a team of hundreds of people. There's no way every HR practitioner can have every skill set needed to support 100 people. It's just impossible. So someone might need a little bit more love in their interaction. Someone might need a little more empathy. Someone might need a little more compassion. Someone might need a little more patience. And there's no way to have all those skills. So AI can do that very effectively. And I think it's super empowering if we create a model where employees can opt in so that they voluntarily will get this kind of support. It's private, kept between them. But there's also some components to it where there is a trigger for management or HR, not as a oversight kind of thing, but more of a supportive, loving thing to say, hey, we're seeing this sort of thing going on across the organization. Maybe there's a need for some training, some EQ training, some offsite event, something to get people together. These are all tools to help create more engagement, more cohesion, and more collaboration amongst the team.
Yeah, I could see that with you're talking about it being private, but I can also see the overall morale, like your score, right? Your happiness score, or there's probably a bunch of scores already out there for this, but you can see, if you got 100 different employees and saying, hey, yeah, morale's kind of dipping here.
Imagine you make an announcement, some changes happening, whatever's going on, and you can instantly get a pulse on the organization. How are people reacting to that? How are people feeling about that? And that can inform how you deal with the situation. So maybe you realize, oh man, we missed the mark here. We need to be more supportive. Or you might get some great news, like we did a really great job on how we handle this. Let's make sure we do it again the next time the same way. There's things that we can learn through that kind of monitoring and analysis that can help bring more human into the organization. That's really what it's about. That's the purpose of using these kind of things as a feedback loop, is to enable the emotional well-being of the team. And right now, it's a complex thing to do. With AI, it's still a complex thing to do, but it's scalable and it can be done on a personalized level. And I think it's a beautiful thing on how AI will benefit individuals and organizations as well.
So we're seeing some of these tools right now. You have like the Microsoft Copilot, Google will have something, and what they're going to be looking at is they'll be able to draw from all your company emails, maybe your Google Drive, the company docs, and it'll develop this knowledge. So that's not anything that's far future at all. That's what's kind of going on right now. You've got the sentiment analysis stuff. We see that in like meeting AI right now, where it's kind of looking at the sentiment, looking at the tonality of things as well. So none of that is anything that's crazy, right? We're not talking 2 years, 3 years down. This is already happening. Then you've got maybe where things get a little bit weird is with these sort of virtual assistants like you're talking about. So do we have like our own mentor or our own virtual assistant that works specifically with us and knows personal details that we communicate, but that's just kind of isolated with like me as an employee, and I'm going through whatever, and it's helping me get through that?
I think that would be the best thing that could happen. We all have some habits that kind of repeat themselves or creep up at some point or another, depending on what's going on in our lives. And sometimes we catch that after the fact, which that's not preferred. You want to try to catch it before. So there's some predictive things in there that AI can do. So having that personalized AI assistant or mentor could be one that says, hey, you're going on a pattern that you've repeated before, and this has been the outcome in the past. Maybe try it this way, right? So it's like an opportunity to catch something before you do something that you are really trying to work on as an individual. And so I think that's where there's tremendous opportunity for AI to create value for the individual. But organizationally, it could be also valuable where you can support the individual, but you could do it in a subtle way, right? So, for example, we know if someone's searching for something online and there's a company that offers that service and they're buying those keywords, they can pop up an ad, right? So it's very timely. It's that zero moment of truth. I'm looking for something. There's a company that's got something that you're looking for, that they offer it, and then you got a little ad that pops up very conveniently, like, oh, it's right there. I was just thinking about that, right? So, yeah, I think there's opportunities even amongst the employee base where maybe someone's browsing an intranet or something, where it could be subtle in popping up something suggestive that is based on some learnings that could be very timely for that individual. So this is where it's going to get a little tricky to do it in such a way that's respectful and dignified and subtle, which is why I think opting in is going to be key, right? Just transparently saying, hey, this is what's available to you. Would you like to opt in and get some feedback? It's private, that kind of thing, I think is going to play a big role.
What if you and I are having a conversation and, we're exchanging emails or something, and I'm just not getting it, what you're saying? Do you see AI being something where you can say, hey, help me communicate better with Stephen here. This is what my goal is. How can we get through to him basically on this aspect, where it kind of knows me a little bit and says, oh yeah, you need to do this, this, and this? Would that be, or is that, do you think, too intrusive?
No, I think if the organization is one that's caring and empathetic, it's natural for people to want to opt into that scenario. I could see easily in a conference call typing into the chat saying, I'm having a hard time understanding what this is about. And the chat could say, hey, I've summarized this for you because it knows how you learn. Don't worry about it. I've summarized this for you. After the call, we'll just go through this. But if it's like, yeah, maybe it'll trigger your chat and it says, I think you need to clarify these 3 points a little bit more, right? So
Triggers my chat, so I'm like getting
it's
some
like
feedback.
your chat to attack my chat. It's kind of like that, right? I always equate it to this idea when we were children and we just went to mommy, right? And mommy spoke to the other mommy, and they just coordinated they just kind of fixed the problem for us because we didn't know how to communicate it or understand how to resolve the problem, right? And I'm not suggesting that AI should treat us like a bunch of children, but in some cases, it feels like we're a child when we don't feel comfortable saying, I'm not understanding this, because it makes us feel like a child, right? So in order to feel more empowered, I think having an ability to query and have the system come back to you saying, this is what I've captured, I'll break it down for you later, or this is what I've captured, why don't you ask these 2 questions to get some clarification? I think that's a way to feel more empowered and not feel so embarrassed saying, I'm just not understanding what you're saying, because it puts you back into that time where you went to mommy for something. So, it's just the way we're wired. So it's got to feel empowering at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so I think that's totally true. It's got to be empowering. It's got to be something that, you're at least opting into, maybe on some level, that you understand the agreement with that. And maybe that line moves in the future where we're all just, we all agree that it's going to be a little more intrusive as we go along, but we're good with that. We don't feel abused in any way. And so that line.
Some of us in the older generation are more concerned with that than the newer ones.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
more open to that kind of thing. They're totally, they live in the open, perpetually connected all the time. So that's not going to feel so strange to have that kind of feedback loop right there at the moment, I don't think.
Well, hopefully we've got some good, ethical, loving guidelines around all this. That's it for today's Empathy Expansion Kit episode. Join us tomorrow for Thursday's guest conversation, and we'll see you in the next Bliss Business podcast.